Hey folks, I'm sure you've heard the news coming out of Eastern Europe. Russia has crossed the line once again, this time by violating Estonian airspace. Now, that might sound like just another headline, but if you really look closely, this is chillingly familiar. It's exactly how things started in Ukraine back in 2014. Started with small provocations, tests of NATO's resolve, and then slow but steady escalation that eventually turned into full-scale war in 2022. And Estonia is already feeling the pressure. Thousands of refugees who fled Ukraine's battlefields have sought safety here, not just from Ukraine, but also from Russia. And now they're watching the same storm clouds gather over their new home once again. It's not just a geopolitical move, it's personal for these families who thought they had escaped Russia's aggression. So let's remember how it mirrors the early days of the Ukraine conflict and what the refugee community in Estonia is facing as they once again live under the shadow of war. Hey folks, Chuck Holton here. I'm in Tallinn, Estonia today, capital of Estonia. We just flew up here from Ukraine, finally worked our way out of Ukraine. And don't know when I'll go back, but there's still a lot going on. I've got about 3 minutes, a very quick update for you. I'm not going to take a lot of your time, but I just want to let you know where we are and what we got coming up. Here in Estonia, obviously, this area has a lot to do with the conflict in Ukraine because Russia is threatening these countries, and there are a lot of Ukrainians who are flooding into these countries and costing these countries a lot of money and getting a lot of support from them and that sort of thing. Here in Estonia, there are about 50,000 Ukrainian refugees that are currently living here and have gotten visas like temporary protected status. And that actually equates to about 4%, almost 4% of the total population here. It's a small country, which is mind-boggling. That's a lot. So we're going to be reporting on that. We're going to be talking to some of the Ukrainians and finding out how they got here, because they worked their way out of Ukraine, not by coming into Ukraine because of the front lines, but they went through Russia and worked their way all the way up through Russia, going through the filtration process that we talked about, and moving into Estonia, where they're now like living on a cruise ship and that sort of thing. So that's going to be interesting stuff. I'm excited to be reporting on that this week. Listen, if there's so much just junk going on in the media in the United States right now, and I'm getting so much of this just pushback from people saying, you know, oh, why do we care about Ukraine? They're so corrupt, and oh gosh, they're a bunch of Nazis, and you know, I'm tired of addressing that issue. Bottom line is, the people of Ukraine are hurting, and we should stand up for them in whatever ways we can that makes sense. And there's debate to be had about what ways actually make sense. So we're going to be talking about that some more, and talking about what the reality is on the ground here in Tallinn. And so stay tuned. Thanks for watching. More than 7 million people fled their homes as a result of the conflict in Ukraine, the greatest mass migration since World War II. And in the areas taken over by the Russian army, there's often little left of homes and infrastructure.
Suddenly I heard an explosion and my doors were blown out. I felt a little draft and took a torch to find out what it was. I saw the door was missing and all the windows on the balcony were broken.
Many of these residents feel stuck without documents or resources to leave. But now they're leaving anyway to escape the coming winter. And to do so, they have to traverse the country of their enemy, Russia. This 15th century Ivangorod fortress on the other side of the river there marks the boundary between Russia and where I'm standing here in Estonia. And it also marks the end of a very long and stressful journey for hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians who have made the journey for more than 1,500 miles to this bridge right over here, where they enter the European Union. This cruise ship in Tallinn's harbor is now a temporary home for 2,000 Ukrainians. While the Estonian government is helping with a small stipend and other social programs, it's still a tough transition.
4 people lives in a tiny cabin, and you don't have fresh air because you cannot open a window. Some cabins even doesn't have windows. They even don't see daylight.
It's hard on the children. That's why we try to keep everything positive, to not talk about it. As if everything is fine, as if we just changed our place of residence.
Cramped conditions on board the ship are nothing compared to what these Ukrainians endured to get here.
We have nowhere to go back to. My apartment is wrecked, the windows of the cracked door are smashed, everything inside is damaged by shrapnel, and as long as the Russian army is there, we will not return.
They were hiding in their basements, and they didn't have any water, electricity, anything to eat, and they were just hiding and waiting when they will have a chance to get out. People break their smartphones because on the Russian border they check all their smartphones, which social media they are using, what kind of opinion, if they wrote something on regarding this war.
They surrounded me with their weapons and said, "You do not get to choose where you will go. We choose." And I said, "Sorry, but we are not cattle, we are humans."
This tiny Baltic nation has taken in more than 50,000 refugees since the beginning of the war.
It's about 3–4% of the population that has come to Estonia as refugees, and we're not even counting the people who have just come through. You know, for context, that's about 10 million people in the United States.
Personally, I'm very grateful to Estonians because I've never seen such a huge kindness, such a kind attitude towards the Ukrainians, and they are trying to help with everything that they have. You have the same right as Estonians. They provide us with temporary residentship for 1 year, and we can legally work here.
79-year-old Zoya never traveled more than a few miles from her home in Mariupol before it was bombed by the Russians.
Now we have nowhere else to go. What's worse, we have no electricity, no gas. I doubt we'll have heat this winter.
After Zoya arrived here with little more than the clothes on her back, local church members volunteered to take her in.
The people at our church wanted to see if anybody would be able to help her out, put her up for a couple of nights, and we figured we might as well do that.
I am so grateful for this family. How can they treat me so well when we aren't even family? We did not ask for Russia to save us. Maybe 5% of the people in Mariupol supported the Russians. But you'd have to be on drugs to look at these blackened, bombed-out buildings and think that this is what it looks like to be saved.
Ukrainians aren't the only ones crossing into Estonia in search of a better future. There are thousands of Russians here as well.
Like, I immigrated from Russia in 2015, and one of the reasons I immigrated was that, like, I felt that I'm growing up or living in a country of aggressor. I feel like this is not a country to live, and I know a lot of people around me as well wanted to make this move, and it's just not always easy for people because they to immigrate you need at least two things: language and documents. And I had both of them, but many people couldn't afford it. And with this war, you can feel that like a lot of people want to immigrate, and then now they're trying to make it in kind of very emergency kind of way, like fleeing to Turkey or to any country which are visa-free for Russians.
I think this war should not have happened. We just broke into our neighbors and started killing them for no reason. These things should not happen in the 21st century.
Given the circumstance, and I think Estonians, like other countries that are bordering Russia, fully understand that this is not just about Ukraine. This is a much bigger issue, and there's a huge amount of solidarity.
I'm not one of those Ukrainians who have always considered Russia an enemy. I always knew they were dangerous, but I didn't expect this. Now, I hate Russia.